Podcast Rock City.
What's up, everybody? Joe here from Podcast Rock City. I want to thank you guys for listening to the last show. Listen, real quick, let me do my laundry list of things before I get started with the topic. Please go on iTunes and leave me a review. I've gotten a few in the past few weeks, and it's been a big help. All those reviews apparently help me get up higher in the iTunes charts, whatever. And you know how that goes. You have to please people in order to get, better guests or famous guests. How about that? I think my guests have been awesome, but they want to see that you're up in the stats or whatever. But anyway, this week I wanted to talk about Kiss and television, because they just did American Idol, and I wanted to bring on my very close friend Matt Porter. How you doing?
What's happening, Joe?
I'm doing great, and I know you had a crazy day, and I'm really glad that you were able to still get in here. Whenever I think of Kiss and television, here's the craziest thing, because I showed my mom and dad this the other day, and I told them, I said, you remember one time in the summer you told me, hey, Joey, you need to come on in because Kiss is going to be on Linda Carter. And I said, oh, awesome. And I left what I was doing with all my buddies, and I went and got my popcorn and my soda, and I sat and I waited, and then it was not Kiss. It was was people dressed like Kiss, and and dancing, and I thought, wow, Ace has got moves. But I remember looking at my mom and going, Mom, I don't think this is Kiss. And so with that memory, and it's such a bizarre thing. I'm so glad I have so many other television experiences. But although, and I know you're gonna agree with me here, in the 70s there wasn't that many.
Well, first of all, you have to think, if you were watching anything with Linda Carter, at least that was a good start, because who was hotter than Linda Carter?
Yeah, and she's wearing a killer outfit in that thing too.
I know what you're talking about. So it was somehow combining all the things that we loved, kind of.
Right. and so the things that I remember seeing as a kid, besides the Paul Lynde special, which was a really good one. That was like the first time I ever heard them really talk.
You know what? I have to agree. I think that was really that summer of 76 was when we really discovered Kiss. So that was Paul. By the time they got into October, the Paul Lynde Halloween special was the first time I remember actually seeing them walk around and talk. And I had not seen the Mike Douglas show, which obviously was a couple years earlier. And so, the Paul Lynde Halloween – but I think the Paul Lynde Halloween special is a good example, because, a lot of people, when they announced, okay, Kiss will be on American Idol, and everybody's like, oh, what's Kiss doing on American Idol? If you go back and watch the Paul Lynde Halloween special, the whole thing, not just the Kiss parts that are on the Kissology, that thing's as cheesy as can be.
It's the biggest ball of cheese. Paul Lynde was cheese.
And when you think about even what they're doing, it's like song and dance numbers. I mean, they're doing that whole bit where he and Tim Conway are going to be, off-road truckers, and they're driving around, and then you go, it's hysterical. I mean, you watch it now and you go, at the time, I mean, what were we thinking? But I think if you go back and watch that whole show, you realize that Kiss, was taking what they could get. So
absolutely. And I'll tell you, I remember a few things that really stick out in my head. Where I'm not old enough to remember the TV show Fridays, but here in Atlanta, for some reason, on one of our channels, they reran it in the 80s. It was like a rerun, I don't understand why, but it was well after Kiss took the makeup off. That one night I turned on the television on one of those public access style, they have all the reruns, Gilligan's Island,
right.
Gillis, all that stuff. And damn, I'm watching them perform songs from The Elder, and I'd never seen that before.
I saw that when it was on, and that was one of those things where it was the same as every other time that Kiss has ever been on. Was you waited for those couple minutes of Kiss, and they did a scene earlier where Kiss is on like a game show or something, and like it was like a Hollywood Square kind of thing, and they're in like one of the squares or something. But then that's the thing. Yeah, they came out and they're doing The Oath, and they're doing World Without Heroes, and they did and it was like. And it was live. I mean, it seemed like it was really cool, and things like that. I mean, that was they never at that time never did stuff like the Tonight Show or Saturday Night Live. You never saw them on anything. So when that was on, that was a big deal.
Right, and also, what was the other show that I remember seeing that was so I just 3, 2, 1 Contact.
Right.
Now, they really weren't in it, but it was very exciting to see them build the stage and talk about Kiss. And it was, then they showed them perform a little bit, and that was really cool. Fast forward to now, they seem to be everywhere.
Well, even like if you think about some of the appearances, 1980, the debut of Eric Carr with the band is on Kids Are People too.
Right.
I mean, I can't think of something too much more un-rock and roll than Kids Are People too, which I remember seeing on a Sunday morning, and it was like, here's Eric Carr and, all these kids, but it was like, shows like that, or, it's the ones that I always remember was every once in a while you'd see them on like Evening Magazine or PM Magazine and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's one that I had recorded with a cassette recorder off of like with handheld the cassette recorder up to the TV, and it was Gene, and he was talking, and I end the Kiss Room with that quote on every one where he's talking about, she says, do you have any last minute crazy things you want to say? He's like, no, but I will say this, something to anybody out there that's the weird guy or the weird girl that always has the weird things that their friends put them down for. He's like, don't think it's so weird. Maybe someday somebody will give you a chance to make a living at it. He says, you just stick to it. You be weird. And I remember thinking that was the greatest. And I had that on a cassette. I still have it. That's like I still listen to that. But I can never find the video. There's a copy of it that I saw on YouTube, but it's a terrible, terrible version. But when they would come on, these things were only a couple minutes. It was 2 or 3 minutes, but it was like you'd be glued to it. And then they didn't really I didn't have a VCR. That was about 1970. Yeah, that's 1978, 79. We didn't have a VCR. Or Land of Hype and Glory. Remember Land of Hype and Glory?
Absolutely, yes.
And that was one where, again, it was one of the first times where you actually kind of saw them talk. And even then, they're kind of, the guy's doing the whole thing. Well, what's the art form in, spitting blood? And he's like, and pretending you're vomiting blood. And Gene's like, well, who said it was pretend?
Pretend. Right. I'll tell you, I'm going to have to go and look because I have, I'm going to say a foul word right here, but I have all the bootlegs from year by year of all their television appearances. You name it. If it was just a little news story or, of course, that really famous – I don't know if you've ever seen this. I don't know if it was on Kissology or not, but it was this interview by this guy in Detroit about Kiss playing at Cobo.
Yeah, Max or whatever.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, Max Kinkle or whatever.
And he goes, yeah, that's right. And he's so – you wrote such a song, Beth. And it's just like, I love how Peter's like, I got 1 million of them. And now you're going, no. But,
well, that's the one where they show them only the back of their head.
Yes,
and they, same with, do you remember the Nightbird show? The same thing with that, where she was out with them and they're eating lunch out in San Francisco. But again, without the makeup, and you could every once in a while see like the side of their face. And I think that's one of those things where people, now, like you said, they're everywhere. But at the time it was, oh my gosh, you could almost see their faces. They don't have their makeup. And like, we were kind of freaking out. I really remember, but it was those kind of appearances that, they were kind of few and far between.
Oh, yeah. Like, also on one of the videos, and I really have to find this and figure out how to put it, was while Kiss was still in makeup, and it was a show, like a PM Magazine type of deal, and they were talking about Creatures of the Night, and it showed video of Paul and Gene leaving like an airplane, and they weren't wearing makeup.
Huh.
And I'm going to find it, and I'm going to send it to you in the next couple of days.
Yeah,
so
I need
You can
that.
see that, and you're going to be like, look, I could not believe it. What about Flo and Eddie?
Right. Remember that show?
Now, Flo and Eddie, if you guys have not seen this out there, and you really want to see the cheesiest thing and the saddest thing that they ever did, watch the routine with the hula hoop, the lighting of the toilet paper, and the stuffed animal jumping through I want to cry. I have to fast forward to that because what would they have been thinking?
Well, but what's funny with that is they talk about how Flo and Eddie actually brought them on stage the one time, and if you find that video, where you know what I'm talking about,
they didn't even get off the stage.
Well, the funny thing is they yell, "It's Kiss!" and they stand there just kind of jumping up and down with their arms up and down, and to me it seems hysterical every time. It's so funny
in makeup,
right?
Like they're all painted up with their own style and their own little weird costumes.
He says, "We had a heart attack. We're older guys."
Yeah. And then and then Paul and Gene are doing interviews on their like little teeny. I mean, from what I can tell, it looks like it's just like a Macy's style window, where you would put the mannequins and they're all stuffed in there, unless it's like superimposed back,
I think it was just a set. It was just like made to look, just a set that they made up,
It's strange. But one of the other really cool things was that when you did get those little tidbits, solid gold, I remember waiting for that.
Yeah, sure.
And I believe you guys talked about that on your last show.
Yeah.
And it's true. It was Kiss and Girls in Thongs, and that was just a wonderful episode of the show. And Andy Gibb and God rest his soul, rest in peace. And so now. Like last night when they performed, we've been talking about it, and people are up and down about, the performance or more about Paul than anything else. But what I think they're missing out is just appreciating the fact that they're getting Kiss on television for free and getting to see them get respect from other, people, a standing ovation at the end.
Well, I mean, nobody's going to mistake it for an appearance from 1978, and obviously it is a different band. I mean, I'm of the mind where I'm just happy that they come on TV. To me, I'm still about 10 years old in my mind, and I get excited when all of a sudden here's Kiss on TV, and I think it's because it's the same way I was when I was a kid, and I think that it is one of the quotes they've often said is that people will listen with their eyes just as much. So when they come on the screen, I'm happy to see them. I sing along. We're jumping around here in the living room, watching Kiss. So to me, it's cool. And okay, yeah, Paul's voice did not sound great. I mean, people are going to say, oh, this, that, and the other. It's 2014. I think it's kind of what we would expect at this point. I thought they were better on the Tonight Show, but to me, it's just fun. I enjoy it. I mean, I'm not a big fan of American Idol. I don't watch it. So I was actually sitting here on Facebook chatting with everybody else who's kind of going, well, when's Kiss going to come on? And, it is what it is. I think people need to just either decide that they're going to enjoy it, or some people I think just love to just put negative stuff because they're going to know that it gets a reaction out of people. I mean, I'll tell you one of the funniest things. And I have a lot of really cool people in my Kiss Room Facebook group, but there was one where the guy's like, "Oh, well, I never thought I could say it, but now I can say I can sing better than Paul Stanley." And you just have to read that and say, like, well, you know what? We'll wait for your album to come out. I can't wait to hear your album. It's like, you go, son, you really can't. And it's just, stuff like that. It's like I think people seem to forget that it's Paul Stanley.
It's Paul Stanley, man. He's still cooler. He's still more awesome than most people on the planet,
Well, and you know what? In the year 2014, the fact that we can still be into it, and like when Caleb, the kid that won, now I didn't know anything about what this season of American Idol, but at the end, when he sang with Kiss, his brother comes out in the Kiss makeup. Now, here's his brother singing for American Idol. He's more excited to meet Kiss, but you look at that kid's face when he's walking out there, he's beaming. He's going to get to meet Kiss. He's wearing his makeup. You know what I mean? And that's the fact that when he comes out, that's the joy that I think that we still, it's the rock and roll of Kiss. And I think, to me, that's really was one of the best parts, was that kid was so ecstatic. Here he is in front of millions of people watching TV, and he's wearing his own Kiss makeup. I think that's cool.
Yeah, it was really awesome. And the other thing, there is a video when they let the kid's name is Caleb, when they let him know that he was going to be performing with Kiss, his brother was on stage and they lost their minds. And he was like, this is my brother's favorite band. And that's why, they brought him out because, and he was wearing Paul's makeup, and it was really cool, to see a fan. And they're younger too, wouldn't you say?
See, they seem really young. I don't really know anything about them. It's something, and I know you have a big audience with your podcast, Rock City. I'd be curious for the younger kids that listen. Obviously, if they're listening to these podcasts, they're pretty much diehard fans. Nobody's coming to the podcasts that isn't a real diehard fan, because I think you want everything. What I'd be really curious are to the teens and tweens who are out there that aren't Kiss fans that saw them last night. Would they have the same reaction that we had, say, in 1976 on the Pauline Halloween special, and say, what is that? I need, to go buy that album, or, I guess that's my question would be, who decided that having Kiss on American Idol again was really a good idea? Who are they marketing to? Okay, Kiss 40, the new 40th, greatest hits or whatever, that's going to come out. Are they hoping that somebody goes, wow, this new band Kiss is really exciting? But I always think it's funny because, you figure we are the grown-ups now. We have kids, and my kids are very aware, obviously through me, of Kiss. So it's not surprising to them, but again, that's stuff that their dad likes. Well, daddy likes Kiss. So in a way, I think I'd really put that question out to your listeners. What, if they know young kids who aren't familiar with Kiss, what do those kids think when they see, if they're just tuned in for, American Idol and they don't get Kiss, what do they think? Now, I didn't watch it after that. I turned it off after Kiss was off. And other than J-Lo looked very hot when she was, dry humping the floor, I kind of watched with the sound down until Kiss came on. But I'm never really a fan of that show. But I tuned in like everybody else that was watching for Kiss. So,
and the music, the band sounds better than ever. That's the one thing that, when I watch Kissology, I love Ace Frehley. To me, he's a guitar god, but if he would have been on the show last night, you wouldn't have known what you were about to get.
Right. Well, I think that was always their problem with Ace, was that he was maybe a little more unpredictable, and people argue that's a whole other show, is they're going to argue whether he was, was better because he was unpredictable, or whether,
Right. And now, with Tommy and Eric in the band, musically every night it's going to be as close to on as it possibly can be, and I can't say that since they've been in the band, I've seen a bad show.
I enjoy it when I go. A lot of people, I have at least two shows I'm going to this summer. It's always fun. I think it's still a lot of fun. It's obviously we can debate, who should be in the band, and people are going to go on endlessly about whose makeup should be on who, and this, and that, and the other.
Right.
What's disrespectful and what's not. And, there's only so many times around the track. At some point you got to either decide you're going to like it, or you're going to decide to
get off
curl
the
up
track.
With your copy of Dress to Kill. But, it's all good.
Yeah. And, okay. So listen, I know that we kind of got a little bit off of our subject as far as Kiss and television, but I wanted to go back to it because I wanted to say that I really felt like when it came to TV, Gene it seems like when they were doing stories, it was mostly something had to do with him, whether it was he was dating Donna Summer or he was dating Cher, or it mostly Cher. So the Cher thing was a big deal.
Well, and even I think that's because she was also such a big star. It's in a way it's no different than when Tommy Lee was dating Pamela Anderson or whatever, because it was like you knew who they both were. It made it more exciting. Or Diana Ross, somebody like that, you already knew who she was. So I think, of course, the media will pick up on the fact that, I didn't know who Cher was. I didn't follow Sonny and Cher. So really, to me, I didn't really care, when the pictures, because she didn't have any impact on me. I guess you knew who she was, but I didn't know any of their music. It's so I don't know that, but I remember all that. You remember seeing that stuff in the magazines, and there he is with the neckerchief in front of his nose, and he's coming out of it, but it's the kind of thing where I think that's really what it was. And, even when you read a lot of Paul's book and he talks about, well, Gene became the face of Kiss. And I think Gene was always very interesting, as far as, he certainly someone just with the charisma that he has. Of course it's going to get on TV, and I think that just made it more exciting was now he was dating, somebody who was equally, known celebrity-wise.
Right, or bigger.
Probably bigger,
Probably
right? It had
bigger.
Been around much longer at that point,
At that point, Cher had been Sonny Bono and Allman, and, it just seemed like, who was she with this time? It was, the next, stud.
Plus, his whole image was crazy, and suddenly they could paint the picture like, he's doing all these crazy things. Are they hanging upside down and drinking blood? And, because he was the demon, and that was, really part of the gimmick as well.
Right. Now, what do you see, as far as when it comes to American Idol, to me, they fit on that show at the end of the season because they do the stuff. The kid was a rocker, and that's why and I'm totally sure when they said, who are we going to put him with at the end of the year? Somebody went, hey, when we had Lambert on with Kiss, how many years ago was that? Like 3 years ago, 4 years ago now? I'm sure the ratings were through the roof.
It's funny. I wonder, certainly it pulls in a section of the audience that would not watch otherwise. I would not watch otherwise, except for I tune in to see Kiss. So maybe they think, but I don't know that they really look at the Kiss audience as the one that, like it's going to double their ratings or something. I'm not really sure who watches American Idol, but to me, it's in a way that was almost a disappointing thing. Was I really didn't want that kid to sing all the lead parts. So let's just just give us a Kiss show. I wish they had done something with that kid that was a little more like I posted it earlier on the day on my Facebook was they should have done I Want You. And they start off and let the kid sing that intro part. And then when it kicks in, now all of a sudden here comes Kiss. That would have been cool, and not have to have them necessarily trade off back and forth on the vocals, or I don't know. For some reason they don't call and ask me what they should do. But it's what I mean. But it's I think when you watch it, you don't necessarily want to hear this kid singing with Kiss. And certainly he's very talented. Obviously he's going to have at some point, I think he'll have some kind of career. He's obviously got a great voice, right. But I'm not sure he should be the fifth member of Kiss, but
Right. Yeah. As a matter of fact, it was really funny because there were people immediately afterwards going, congratulations, there's your Paul replacement. I was like, right. I don't think so.
No.
I was like,
but he's the new Meatloaf. That's he looks just like him.
Oh yeah. He definitely could pull off Meatloaf. And that's saying a lot.
And Meatloaf is great.
Meatloaf is great. That's a Kiss connection too with Bruce Kulick.
Well, think of like Bat Out of Hell. That's, I would say, one of the greatest albums of all time. That's a really great album. And then obviously we're not a Meatloaf podcast. That'll be our new one. We'll call it Leftover Loaf.
Yeah. Nice. Did you just come up with that, or is that something you had?
I got $1 million.
Okay, nice one. Nice. Well, okay. So now, all right. So we're coming to the end of the show. Let's do a rating thing. Okay. Now, let's rate what we saw last night as far as like all the other chances you've had to see Kiss. I put it, if 1 is awful and 10 is great, I put it at about a 7, because I'm really excited the fact that it seems like things are starting to, because the record's out, the tour's about to start, and Kiss is going to start getting that little bit of a push that they get, so I'm going to see them more. So I give it a 7 because the performance was great. Paul wasn't perfect, but I love Paul Stanley. He's listening, by the way, and he knows. Paul, I love you, man. You're awesome. And so I say that it was great. At least a 7 on the list, and I enjoyed the music, and I was glad they did Love Gun. I thought, all of a sudden that movie Role Models is running through my head, right. where I wonder how many parents are going, you know what he's singing about there?
Well, but see, what did the parents think when we were little, though? Like, my mom and dad did not give me a hard time about the fact that they were singing that in 1970, 78 or whatever.
Right,
so
right.
It wasn't – that's what I always think is funny now, because we are the parents now. You know what I mean? Like, and we know what he's singing about, and we like it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this. It wasn't until, of course, I got older, because in 78 I was 8, and right. I did not know what he was singing about in that I had no idea what Paul. I thought it was a Love Gun.
It's a gun.
It's gun.
That little cardboard thing that you shoot. Okay.
And I know, just from listening, you loved it. It was perfect for you. You know what? Am I out of reach there, or out of touch, or
what the Love Gun in
last night?
Last night, you know what? I would see. I don't even know if I'd rate it as tie, because to me, last night the excitement that I felt was great, but really the only things that disappoint me are the things that, one, I just want to hear Kiss. I don't want to hear that. Even though that guy's great and talented, I don't want him singing with Kiss. I just want to see a Kiss show. So in a way, it waters it down for me, because I don't want the American Idol part. I just want the Kiss part. Like the Tonight Show appearance, I thought was 10 times better, because I thought they sounded better, and it's just Kiss.
Right.
That's really what I want. And I think, and when you saw him on the Tonight Show, Jimmy Fallon clearly, I mean, he's younger than we are, but he was clearly very much like, hey, this is cool. I have Kiss on here. I think a lot of the time that's really, I like now a lot of the people that are running TV, I think they're all our age. I think they have more respect for the fact that they were Kiss fans. But so I didn't, I didn't think it was the greatest appearance ever, but in the end, look, it was fun. It's fun still for me to see Kiss on TV. You turn it up real loud. I got the sound system here and everything. It sounded, it sounded good. And yeah, people are going to say, oh, Paul's voice didn't sound good. That's all day. All you see on the Facebook, oh, Paul's voice they should retire, this and that and the other. I think it's way more rock and roll to pull up your boots and tie them tight and say, I'm going to go out there and rock and do my thing, then it's time to quit. And who's to say when it's time to quit?
Exactly. He'll be done when he's done. And he kind of alluded to it a little bit in his book, near the end of the book, that he can't go on forever, but I don't really want to think about that right now.
Well, and it's tough, because I think everything does come down to, look, we're all older. Like, when you think, in a way, you brought a really good example of the fact that when we were hearing Love Gun, what did we think? But now, all these years later, we're still listening to Love Gun. I admit it, I have not grown up in my mind. I mean, as much as you try and fight it, you do end up getting older. The things I liked when I was 10, it was funny that you brought up Linda Carter right at the start, but when you think about it, all the things in 1978 that were great, I still like more than anything I like now. It's like Linda Carter and Kiss and Star Wars, and look, and I'm not critical of that kind of thing. I mean, a lot of time people, this and that. I don't know. To me, it's meant so much to me for so long that I just enjoy it. I try and enjoy it as much as I can.
And that's what you just got to keep doing. And the minute you stop enjoying Kiss, just go away. That's how I feel about it. So don't try to ruin it for me. That's my, I have friends that I work with and care and love very much that they sound like Charlie Brown's teacher to me. And it's just like, look, I'm not joking. When I actually heard this conversation right before the Hall of Fame, it was, so-and-so asked me about the Hall of Fame, and I told him I didn't have an opinion. And then, like, for 10 minutes, they gave me an opinion. So I was like, okay, whatever. Hey, Matt, I appreciate you coming on with me again.
Thanks for having me, Joe. It's always fun.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have another show coming up, you're going to be on Thursdays now, right?
So we're coming up again on Thursday, June 12th. It's funny in a way that we're talking about kind of all the TV appearances. I have some really special guests. It's actually our unofficial start to our third year of the Kiss Room.
Wow.
And I have some guests coming in that were our neighbors in 1973 who really were the ones who we learned of Kiss from. Our friends Lenny and Brian. Lenny was a couple years older, and he had the albums, and we would hear him blast them out the window, and that's kind of how we got into Kiss. So Lenny and Brian, and hopefully my brother will come in as well, and it's a celebration really of kind of what got us into Kiss and how we've enjoyed Kiss over the years. So I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, we moved to Thursdays because I'm allowed to take Fridays off in the summer. So it'll be Thursday live and obviously on the replay later for everybody who wants to tune in for that on thekissroom.com.
Yeah, and it is a great show, and I enjoy listening to it. And the music is always cool, and the people that you have on with you are great.
Well, thanks.
As much as people keep saying, well, how much can you talk about Kiss? I'm like, well, shoot, we can go on forever. There's always a conversation. Matt's doing it 3 years, Cassius has been doing it 5.
I think, and there's always the thing that I like, and what I really wanted to do when I started the show was I like people's stories about being Kiss fans. To me, that's what's more exciting, and I try and find people that want to come on and kind of share their stories because that's what's really unique. And a lot of us have shared similar kind of stories. That we talk about things that happen, and you go, I can absolutely relate to that. And I just think it's that common ground that's so much fun and kind of connecting with people. And because we're live, we're able to get people via Facebook who will then instantly comment and say, oh, I remember this or I remember that. And I just, that's what I enjoy the most is that everybody has, obviously if you're on any kind of social media, you realize very quickly everybody has an opinion, but everybody has a story. And what were their stories and when did they come into being Kiss fans and how did they relate? It's really funny is when like somebody had posted the other day, what was your favorite Kiss song? What was your least favorite Kiss song? And it's always amazing to me when you see some of these really classic Kiss songs come up and people go, I hate that song. You go, really? Like, I just think it's kind of eye-opening and kind of fun, and it makes you realize that there's a lot of different opinions out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Matt, thank you very much. I appreciate it. You guys make sure you tune into his show coming up. It's going to be on Thursdays, and it's coming up. He does one a month, and make sure you listen because it's always a lot of fun. Thank you again.
Thank you, Joe.
And we will see you next time
on Podcast Rock City.
That's right.